12 half-pint jars will fit in the bottom. I do have a rack that I could use and put more in there. I have 16 jars ready. I don't think I'll need that many for half of the amount of mushrooms, but I wanted to have them prepared. And there's the 3 quarts of water in there, and now I'm just going to start to bring that up to a simmer so that my jars are hot for the hot mushrooms. I also have this lovely electric water pot, I guess you would call it. My niece and her husband gave that to me as a gift to help me out with my canning, so that's where I'll be getting the water from once I turn it on, of course. It boils very quickly, so it is very helpful for doing canning because you get hot water very fast and you don't have to have another hot pot on the stove. I bet you can hear it now because now, a half an hour later, it's sleeting. Glad it's a snow day. I know. I didn't show you the actual jarring up of the mushrooms. I'm still so fiddly with it. I just wanted to get it done. So it will happen when I feel more confident showing you how I do things with this canner. I will be sure to film it for you. What I'm waiting for right now is for the steady stream of steam so that we can begin to count our 10 minutes of venting. Now, I had a question regarding whether I was just waiting for the steam to come out or whether I was waiting for the airlock or cover lock to pop up, because I had seen both in other videos as when to begin timing. I did receive a reply from Presto, so I am going to include a copy of that in this, so if you want, you can stop the video to read what it says. But the gal at Presto said, when you see a steady stream of steam come out of your vent, that's when you want to begin your timing. The cover lock, which is in the back, will come up or may come up while you are venting. That is perfectly okay. But I'm also not an expert, so please do your research, and you can call Presto or you can email them. They were very good about emailing back. I don't think I waited more than 24 hours for a response. So please do your homework. I am not an expert. This is just a video showing you how and what I'm learning about canning. I also can on a flat top stove. And through practice and trial and error, I found this is probably my hottest burner on the left. I don't use that for when I'm actually pressure canning. This actually has 2 burners underneath it, and I use this one for when I'm using the pressure canner. And now, it took almost 7 minutes. Can you see the steam coming here? It's a little bit hard to see, but I've set my timer already. And steam will come out of the cover lock at the back as well. So I've set my timer for 10 minutes, and that's how long you need to have it vent. I do have this on the larger of the 2 burners for this stove, and I will switch it over to the smaller burner now. I've learned that by turning it to the smaller burner on high, and here you can see I started it out on the high burner to get it to come to vent. I moved it over to the smaller element at high. So once the canner is done venting and I put the weight on top, then it will take about 9 minutes just to get it up to about 9 pounds of pressure, and I'll move the dial down to 6. And then after a few minutes, I move it down to 4. And then I'll move it once it gets closer to 11 to where I have that dot right there, that seems to be my sweet spot for 11 pounds of pressure, which is what I need at my altitude. I believe my altitude is 900. I'll have to check that again. I was doing that the other day. But it's important to know what your altitude is so you know your pressure. So I'll bring you back once there's more going on. There's still 2 more minutes to go, but I want you to see that the cover lock has popped up. The steam is still coming out, but as you can see by the dial, there's no actual pressure building in there to where it will register on your gauge. We're getting ready for the timer to go off for 10 minutes of venting, and now I'm going to put the weight on. Be sure you have your hand in a mitt. This is steam. It will burn you. Go from the side and pop it on there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the pressure to begin to rise. According to the Presto book, it happens quickly, which I'm going to say depends on your stove. So I've been learning that with my stove, doing it this way on this particular... Alrighty, we got interrupted with a phone call. So what I've learned with my particular stove, as I was saying, every stove is different. So you may need to take some time to figure out which burner, you may need to move it, and your dial. So it has begun to come up to pressure, and it's probably been 4 minutes, I guess. I've learned it can take close to 15 minutes for mine to get up to the 11 pounds of pressure. So the Presto book, as I had started to say, I believe it tells you in the Presto book it'll take about 5 minutes to come up to pressure. Don't be alarmed if it doesn't. You need to learn what works for you on your stove at your altitude. So it does take practice, and it can be very intimidating. Don't let it intimidate you. Just practice. Something else that I also wanted to point out while we're on the subject. Can you hear it's not a very loud rolling boil like when you water bath can, how you want it to be at that rolling boil the whole time? You're turning your stove down so low that it's more of like a high simmer, because it's the pressure you're worried about in the canner, not the actual boil. So just keep that in mind. That was one thing that when I started to do this, I was so concerned about, because it didn't sound like it was boiling rapidly enough. But as you can see, I mean, we're at 12 pounds of pressure, and I've been timing for 3 minutes now. So as long as it stays around that, I'm okay. And I just wanted to share that with you. Are the beautiful mushrooms all ready to be put up on the shelves and used throughout the coming year? Thank you for joining me today. Happy gardening!